Whispers in the dark. The spine of the book cracked as Fiona Reed opened it, releasing the scent of old paper and possibility. The small bookstore where she worked, Title Pages, sat nestled between a coffee shop and an antique store in the sleepy coastal town of Harborview. Rain pattered against the windows, creating a soothing rhythm that had become the soundtrack to her carefully constructed piece. "Ms. Reed, do you have any recommendations for rainy day reading?" Mrs. Peterson asked, her silver hair neatly pinned back, eyes twinkling behind tortoiseshell glasses. Fiona smiled, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "I just got in a new mystery by that author you like. It's on the display by the register. 3 years. 3 years of quiet conversations about books, of morning walks along the shore, of falling asleep without checking the locks twice. 3 years of rebuilding herself piece by piece after escaping a life that had nearly destroyed her." The bell above the door jingled, and Fiona glanced up with her customer service smile ready until she saw him, Damien. The smile died on her lips. He stood in the doorway, droplets of rain sliding down his leather jacket. He looked the same, dark eyes that could charm or terrify depending on his mood. Strong jawline, and that smile that never reached his eyes. "Hello? Wildcat," he said, using the nickname she'd once found endearing before it became a taunt. "Surprised to see me?" Fiona's hands trembled as she placed the book down. "Mrs. Peterson, would you excuse me a moment?" she managed, her voice remarkably steady despite the hurricane inside her chest. "Of course." "Dear," the older woman said, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. Fiona led Damien to the back of the store, away from curious ears. "How did you find me?" she demanded, keeping her voice low. "You think you can just disappear on me?" Damien's voice was soft, almost gentle, which made it all the more frightening. 3 years, Fee. 3 years I've been looking for you." I left a note. "We were done." His laugh was hollow. "We're done when I say we're done." He reached out, touching her hair. She flinched away, and something dark flashed in his eyes. "You look good. Small-town life suits you." "Please leave," Fiona said, hating how her voice shook. "I have a life here." "A good one. With these people?" Damien scoffed, looking around the bookstore. "These nobodies who don't know the first thing about you? About what you've done? About your father?" The mention of her father sent ice through her veins. "That's in the past, is it?" Damien stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "The guys back home haven't forgotten. Carson's crew still thinks you know where the money is. And me? I never got over you walking out." Fiona felt the walls closing in. The safe haven she'd built was crumbling, and she knew what came next. She'd seen it before, with her father, with friends who tried to leave the life. First came the threats, then the violence. "I'll give you 1 day to pack up," Damien said, tracing a finger along her cheek. "1 day, and then you're coming home with me. And Fee, don't even think about running again. You disappear this time, and I'll burn this whole town down looking for you." He left as casually as he'd arrived, the bell jingling cheerfully above the door. Fiona stood frozen, the life she'd carefully constructed shattering around her. She knew he meant every word. Within minutes of his departure, she made her decision. That night, she packed a single bag, withdrew her savings, and left a note for her landlord with next month's rent. As a gray dawn broke over Harborview, Fiona boarded a bus headed for New York City, a worn business card clutched in her hand. On it, a single name and address: Vincent Rossi, Club Umbra, her godfather. The man her mother had trusted. The man who ruled New York's underworld with an iron fist cloaked in velvet. Her last hope. The Guardian's Code. The neon sign of Club Umbra cast an eerie blue glow across the rain-slicked street. Fiona stood across from it, watching well-dressed patrons slip past the imposing doorman. Her reflection in a puddle looked small and lost, a far cry from the confident bookstore manager she'd been just days ago. Taking a deep breath, she crossed the street and approached the doorman. A mountain of a man with a face like carved granite. "I need to see Vincent Rossi," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The man gave her a dismissive once-over. "Mr. Rossi doesn't take walk-ins." "Tell him." Fiona swallowed hard. "Tell him Elaine Reed's daughter is here." Something flickered in the man's eyes. He spoke quietly into an earpiece, then nodded. "Wait here." Minutes later, Fiona was escorted through the club, a labyrinth of private rooms and exclusive spaces dripping with luxury, to a back office where time seemed to stand still. Leather-bound books lined mahogany shelves. Crystal decanters of amber liquid gleamed in the soft lighting. Vincent Rossi sat behind an imposing desk, his silver hair immaculately styled, his eyes sharp despite his age. When he saw Fiona, he stood slowly, recognition washing over his face. "My God," he whispered. "You have your mother's eyes." Fiona fought back tears. "I wouldn't know. I barely remember her." Vincent gestured to a chair. "Sit, child. It's been, what, 15 years? 17, Fiona corrected. Since the funeral." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Vincent poured 2 glasses of whiskey, sliding one toward her. "Why are you here, Fiona?" "Your mother made me promise to stay away. Said you deserved a chance at a normal life." Fiona laughed bitterly. "That didn't exactly work out." She told him everything. Her father's spiral into addiction after her mother's disappearance. The petty crimes that eventually landed him in prison. How she'd fallen in with Damien and his crew. And how she'd finally escaped to Harborview. "And now he's found you," Vincent concluded, his expression darkening. "Damien Reeves. Part of Carson's crew, you said?" Fiona nodded. "He'll come after me, and he'll hurt anyone who gets in his way." Vincent's fingers drummed against his desk. "Carson's crew has been trying to expand into my territory for years. This Damien might be more dangerous than you realize." "I didn't know where else to go," Fiona admitted. "Mom always said if I was ever in real trouble, I should find you." Vincent's eyes softened momentarily. She was right. He pressed a button on his desk. "I'll help you, Fiona. Not just because of who your mother was to me, but because I owe you both a debt I can never repay." The door opened, and a man entered silently. Tall and broad-shouldered, he moved with the liquid grace of a predator. His face might have been handsome if not for the scar that ran from his left temple to jaw and the coldness in his gray eyes. "Dominic," Vincent said. "This is Elaine's daughter, Fiona. She needs our protection." Dominic's eyes flicked to Fiona, assessing her with a single glance. "Carson's crew?" "Yes," Vincent replied. "Take her to the safe house in Queens. No one goes in or out without your approval." "Wait," Fiona protested. "I can't just disappear." "You already have," Vincent interrupted gently. "The moment you stepped into my club, you entered my world. And in my world, child, we play by different rules." Dominic extended a hand to help her up. His touch was unexpectedly gentle despite the calluses that spoke of violence. "Do you trust me?" Vincent asked. Fiona looked from Vincent to Dominic, then nodded slowly. "I don't have much choice, do I?" "There's always a choice," Vincent said, his voice tinged with sadness. "But sometimes all the options are bad ones." As Dominic led her out through a back entrance, Fiona couldn't help but wonder if she'd just traded one dangerous situation for another. In the sleek black car, Dominic drove in silence, occasionally checking the rearview mirror with practiced vigilance. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep and rough like he didn't use it often. "Vincent said you're Elaine's daughter." "You knew my mother?" Fiona asked, surprised. Dominic's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Everyone knew Elaine. She was—" He paused, searching for words. "She was different, special." "What happened to her?" Fiona asked the question that had haunted her for years. Dominic's eyes met hers briefly in the rearview mirror. "That's not my story to tell." As they pulled up to an unassuming brownstone in a quiet Queens neighborhood, Dominic added, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry you got pulled into this life. It has a way of not letting go." Something in his tone made Fiona wonder if he was speaking from experience. "Is that how you got that scar?" she asked before she could stop herself. For the first time, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. "No, that came from trying to leave." Secrets beneath scars days bled into weeks at the safe house. Fiona learned that Dominic wasn't just her bodyguard. He was Vincent's right-hand man, feared throughout New York's criminal landscape for his unwavering loyalty and ruthless efficiency. Yet with her, he was different. Quiet, respectful, almost gentle. Each day followed the same routine. Dominic would arrive at dawn, check the premises, then settle into the living room with his laptop while Fiona attempted to stave off boredom. Sometimes Vincent would call for updates, his concern for her safety seemingly genuine. One evening, as rain lashed against the windows, Fiona found Dominic in the kitchen, shirt sleeves rolled up as he chopped vegetables for dinner. The domesticity of the scene struck her as incongruous. "I didn't know hitmen could cook," she commented, leaning against the door frame. Dominic glanced up, his expression unreadable. "I'm not a hitman. What would you call yourself then?" He considered the question. "Problem solver." Fiona laughed despite herself. "Is that what I am? A problem? You're—" He paused, knife hovering mid-chop. "You're complicated." She moved to the counter, picking up a knife to help. "Because of my mother?" Dominic tensed visibly. "Among other things." They worked in silence for a while, the rhythmic sound of chopping filling the space between them. "How did you end up working for Vincent?" Fiona finally asked. Dominic's movement slowed. "Same way most people end up in this life. Bad choices, worse luck, and the scar?" His hand unconsciously touched his face. "I told you. It came from trying to leave." "Leave what?" Dominic set down his knife, turning to face her fully. "Carson's crew." Fiona's blood ran cold. "You worked for Carson?" "A lifetime ago," he admitted. "I was young, angry, looking for somewhere to belong. Carson's crew gave me that, until I realized what I'd signed up for." "What happened?" Dominic's eyes darkened with memory. "They asked me to do something I couldn't do. I refused. This," he gestured to his scar, "was their parting gift. And Vincent? Found me half dead in an alley. Gave me a second chance." Fiona absorbed this information, her perception of him shifting. "So you know Damien?" "Not personally. Different crews, different times. But I know the type." Dominic's jaw tightened. "Men like that don't let go easily." "Neither do I," Fiona replied, her voice stronger than she felt. Something like respect flickered in Dominic's eyes. "Your mother said the same thing once." That night over dinner, barriers began to fall. Dominic spoke of growing up in foster care, of the brotherhood he thought he'd found in Carson's crew. Fiona shared stories of her father's descent, of meeting Damien when she was just 19 and desperate for stability, of the 3 years she spent looking over her shoulder in Harbor View. "I'm tired of running," she admitted, wine loosening her tongue. "Tired of being afraid." "Fear keeps you alive," Dominic replied. "Is that why you stay with Vincent?" "Fear?" Dominic considered her question. "No, loyalty. To a crime boss? To a man who saw value in me when no one else did." Dominic's gaze was intense. "Not everything in this world is black and white, Fiona. So where does that leave me?" she asked. "Hiding forever?" Dominic leaned forward. "Carson's crew isn't invincible. Neither is Damien. What are you saying?" "I'm saying there might be another way. But it's dangerous. For both of us." For the first time since fleeing Harborview, Fiona felt a flicker of hope. "I'm listening." Blood Ties Vincent's private office at Club Ombra had become a war room. Maps of territories, surveillance photos, and dossiers covered the walls. Fiona stood before them, arms crossed defensively as Vincent and Dominic argued. "It's too risky," Vincent insisted. "She's not part of this life." "She already is," Dominic countered. "Has been since the day Elaine disappeared." Fiona's head snapped up. "What does my mother have to do with this?" The men exchanged a loaded glance. Vincent sighed heavily, looking suddenly older. "Sit down, Fiona. It's time you knew the truth." Vincent poured himself a drink, his hands less steady than usual. "Your mother didn't just disappear. She was working for me." The revelation hit Fiona like a physical blow. "What?" "Not as you're thinking," Vincent clarified. "Elaine was gathering information. On Carson, she was a spy." "She was brilliant," Vincent said, his voice tinged with old admiration. "Carson never suspected the sweet bartender at his favorite club was reporting his every move." "Until he did," Dominic added quietly. Vincent nodded grimly. "Someone tipped him off. By the time I got to her, it was too late." The room spun around Fiona. "You told me she died in a car accident. It was easier than telling a 12-year-old girl her mother was. Murdered." Vincent's voice cracked with rare emotion. I promised her I'd keep you safe, keep you away from all this. But then your father started working for Carson, Fiona finished, the pieces finally clicking into place. That's why you disappeared after Mom's funeral. You thought Dad betrayed her? I didn't just think it, Vincent said darkly. I knew it. Silence fell heavy in the room. All this time, Fiona whispered. All these years running, and I never knew what I was really running from. Carson's crew has a long memory, Dominic said. When they found out who you were, whose daughter, they sent Damien to get close to me, Fiona realized, nausea rising in her throat. Dominic nodded. They think your mother hid evidence against them before she died. Something that could bring down their entire operation. Did she? Fiona asked Vincent. The old man's expression was inscrutable. If she did, she never told me where. Fiona paced the room, mind racing. So Damien wasn't just an abusive boyfriend. He was watching me, waiting for me to lead him to whatever Mom hid. Most likely, Dominic confirmed. Fiona stopped suddenly, a memory surfacing. The music box. Vincent looked up sharply. What music box? Mom had this old jewelry box that played music. Dad sold most of her things after she died, but he kept that. Said it was worthless to anyone but family. Fiona's heart raced. Before I left home, he gave it to me. Said Mom would want me to have it. Where is it now? Dominic asked urgently. In storage. In Harborview. Fiona met his eyes. We have to go back. Vincent shook his head. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. It's our only leverage, Dominic argued. If Carson's crew is still looking for it after all these years, it must be significant. I'll send someone else. No, Fiona interrupted firmly. This is my mother's legacy, my fight. I'm going. Vincent studied her, recognition dawning in his eyes. You really are your mother's daughter. Dominic stepped forward. I'll go with her. Why? Vincent challenged. Why risk your life for this? Dominic's expression hardened. You know why. Understanding passed between the men, and Vincent nodded slowly. 2 days. In and out. First sign of trouble, you get out of there. As they left the office, Fiona caught Dominic's arm. What did he mean? Why are you really helping me? Dominic's eyes held a pain Fiona recognized all too well. Carson's crew didn't just give me this scar. They killed my sister when she tried to leave with me. She was dating one of Carson's lieutenants, a man named Damien Reeves. Reclaiming tomorrow. The storage facility in Harborview looked exactly as Fiona remembered, rows of identical metal doors under harsh fluorescent lighting. Her old unit was at the far end, tucked away in a corner. Dominic stood guard as she fumbled with the key, every shadow making her jump. Easy, he murmured. We've got time. The lock clicked, and the door rolled up with a metallic groan. 3 years of her life, condensed into cardboard boxes and furniture draped in sheets. It should be in that trunk, Fiona said, pointing to an old steamer trunk in the corner. They knelt before it, Dominic keeping one hand near the gun holstered at his side. Fiona opened the trunk, digging through old photo albums and keepsakes until she found it, a delicate wooden box inlaid with mother of pearl. This is it, she whispered, running her fingers over the familiar patterns. We need to move, Dominic urged, helping her to her feet. Too late. The storage unit door slammed shut, plunging them into darkness broken only by the thin beam of Dominic's flashlight. Hello, Wildcat, came Damien's voice, chilling in its false sweetness. Missed you at the bookstore. Dominic pushed Fiona behind him, gun drawn in one fluid motion. Reeves! The light switched on, revealing Damien flanked by 2 burly men, all armed. Well, Damien smirked. If it isn't Dominic Vega? Long way from New York, aren't you? Not far enough, apparently, Dominic replied coolly. Damien's eyes fixed on the box in Fiona's hands. Hand it over, Fee. Save us all a lot of trouble. You killed his sister, Fiona said, voice trembling not with fear but rage. You used me to find my mother's evidence. Damien shrugged, unrepentant. Business is business. Nothing personal. It was personal to me, Dominic growled. Tension crackled in the air. Fiona clutched the music box tightly, mind racing. If they died here, all of it. Her mother's sacrifice, Dominic's sister, her own years of running. would be for nothing. "What's in the box anyway?" Damien asked, taking a step closer. "Must be important for Carson to keep us looking all these years." "Why don't we find out?" Fiona suggested, a plan forming. She needed to buy time, create a distraction. She opened the box carefully. The familiar melody began to play, a haunting lullaby her mother used to sing. Inside, nestled among faded velvet, lay a small golden key. "A key?" Damien laughed incredulously. "That's what this has all been about?" "Not just any key," Fiona improvised, watching Dominic from the corner of her eye as he subtly shifted position. "It's to a safe deposit box. In Manhattan." Damien's eyes gleamed with greed. "Where?" "I'll take you there," Fiona offered. "Just let Dominic go. This isn't his fight." "Oh, but it is," Damien countered. "Vega's been a thorn in Carson's side for years." He gestured to one of his men. "Kill him!" Everything happened at once. Dominic lunged for the man on the left as Fiona hurled the music box at the second gunman's head. The box shattered against his temple, sending him staggering backward. Gunfire erupted in the confined space, deafeningly loud. Fiona dove behind a dresser, heart hammering against her ribs. She could hear grunts of pain, the sickening sound of fists connecting with flesh. When she dared to look, Dominic had one man pinned to the ground while Damien took aim at his back. "No!" Fiona screamed, throwing herself forward. Pain exploded in her shoulder as the bullet meant for Dominic grazed her instead. She collapsed, the world spinning around her. Through the haze of pain, she saw Dominic turn, saw the cold fury on his face as he charged at Damien. The two men crashed into the wall of the storage unit, Damien's gun skittering across the floor. "Fiona!" Dominic called, his voice cutting through her fog. "The key!" The golden key had fallen nearby. With her good arm, Fiona reached for it, fingers closing around cold metal. There was something odd about it, a seam along the shaft. On instinct, she twisted it. The key split open, revealing a tiny microchip inside. "I've got it," she called weakly. Dominic delivered a final devastating blow to Damien, who crumpled to the ground. In seconds, he was at Fiona's side, pressing his jacket against her bleeding shoulder. "We need to move," he said urgently. "Can you walk?" With his support, Fiona staggered to her feet. They made it out of the storage facility just as sirens wailed in the distance, Vincent's backup, arriving at last. 3 days later, Fiona sat in Vincent's office, arm in a sling, watching as he reviewed the contents of the microchip with his lawyers. The evidence was damning. Financial records, blackmail material, details of decades of Carson's illegal operations, all meticulously documented by her mother. "This will destroy them," Vincent said, something like awe in his voice. "Your mother was even more brilliant than I gave her credit for." "What happens now?" Fiona asked, still processing everything. "Now," Vincent said, "you have a choice. This evidence, turned over to the right authorities, could put Carson and his entire operation away for good, including Damien, or," Fiona prompted. "Or we handle it our way," Vincent replied, his meaning clear. Dominic, standing silently nearby, met her eyes. In his gaze, she saw the same question she'd been asking herself since that night in the storage unit. Was revenge worth becoming what they hated? "My mother died trying to bring them to justice," Fiona said finally. "Not revenge, justice." Vincent nodded slowly. "Then justice it will be." In the weeks that followed, as federal agents dismantled Carson's empire piece by piece, Fiona and Dominic built something new from the ruins of their pasts. Not a perfect life, both carried too many scars for that, but one of their own making. They opened a small bookstore in Brooklyn, far enough from Vincent's world to maintain independence, close enough to keep the protection his name provided. On quiet evenings, Dominic would sometimes speak of his sister, and Fiona of her mother, healing through shared memory. And if sometimes Dominic disappeared for days on Vincent's business, Fiona didn't ask questions. Some shadows never fully recede. On the anniversary of her mother's death, Fiona visited her grave for the first time in years. She placed wildflowers against the headstone, Dominic a respectful distance behind her. "She would be proud of you," he said as they walked away. Fiona slipped her hand into his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Of both of us, I think. We stopped running." Dominic's scarred face softened into a rare smile. Some things are worth standing still for. As they walked back toward their waiting car, Fiona felt the weight of her past lighten. She had run from her ghosts for so long, only to find that facing them had set her free. And in Dominic, a man as broken and remade as she was, she had found not just a protector, but a partner in rebuilding what had been lost. Some souls are forged in fire, tempered by pain, and sometimes, in the unlikeliest of places, they find each other. Two shadows merging to create something stronger than darkness.